Okay, let's continue making our bracket. We've got a little boss that we're going to have to put together here. So we're just going to come in and we're going to extrude a boss. I'm going to select this top plane here. Actually, I'm not sure that got selected correctly, so let's just do it again. Yeah, that's the right plane. And so now what we're going to do is I want to sketch a circle. Now, I want this boss to always be in the same center point as this one here. So I'm going to highlight that edge until I see, you can see that little circle here pop up. That's the center point. I'm going to make this coincident to that, and I'm going to drag it out. Now I'm just going to, all I'm going to need now to make this fully constrained is just a diametric dimension. Put that in at 1 inch. And there we go, it's fully constrained. Why is that? Because we've done the size of the feature, which is the inch. The location of it, since it's tagged to be concentric with the other one, we're fine. There's nothing for us to do there. So we're all done. And we're just going to click out of this. We're going to extrude this up 50 thousandths of an inch. So 0.05. And we're going to execute that. And so now we've built that material in the model. Okay, so what I'm going to want to do now is we've got a couple of webs that are running along the bottom here. We've got a large one in the center, and then we've got two smaller ones on the side. So what I want to do is I want to go and I'm going to want to sketch on this right plane because we are exploiting symmetry. It's symmetrical around the center. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go here. So we're going to extrude boss base. So we're already on that sketch because I selected that plane first. So we are good to go. What I want to do is I want to look right down on that plane. And so now let's draw, I want to draw basically a triangle. So just like before, I'm going to highlight the edge until it becomes selectable. I'm going to select that point right there to tag it to where those two lines meet. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to tag it here. And I'm just waiting for it to highlight and become selectable. And so those are my lines there. So now that my lines are all in there, we look at it. Those two lines that are on the edge of the parts are already fully constrained. And so now what I have is dimension from here to the end point of this, which is going to be 5.5 inches. And then I also have the dimension of this guy here, which is 2. And once again, I did something non-optimal as I grabbed that end point because it's a triangle. I really didn't need to do that because once again, I can sit here and just pick that whole line. But let's delete that and let's do it properly. Same thing's going to happen though. It's all fine. So there we go. We have a fully constrained, wedge to support that bracket. And so we're done. So we're just going to exit the sketch. And it's going to ask us, okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, we do want this to be another mid-plane one because we're exploiting that whole idea of symmetry. So we want it centered around there, and we're going to make it 1.875 thick. Just say okay, and so there we have our flange. Now we have 2 other smaller flanges that we're going to need to build off of this. So what I want to do is, since once again I'm trying to exploit as much symmetry as I can, let's do another plane over here so I can put it in the middle. So we need some reference geometry. I've got a reference plane. I'm going to bring this guy up because I want to reference the right plane. And so I'm going to move that over 1 inch from where I'm at. And I'm going to say, okay, so now I've got this new plane here, this plane 2, that I'm going to draw my next flange on. Okay, and so what we're going to do is let's go into a sketch here, and we're going to sketch on plane 2. So let's go and look horizontal to it, or And so I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. So let's just draw a line. I am going to tag the line to that edge, tag the other line to that edge. And now let's dimension. So I've just got the one single line. So I'm going to have to go to the endpoint here. And so I want that to be 2 inches from there. And then I want to grab it from the bottom of the plate. And I want that one to be 1 inch. So that line itself is now fully constrained. So why did I only draw a line? Well, we're going to use a different modeling feature. So if we go into features here, we've got one for a rib. Adds a thin wall support to a solid body. So we're going to select the rib and we're going to give it dimension. So I want it 1/10 of an inch thick, which is already got there. I want to flip the material side because you can see this arrow here is pointing. It's going to make the rib that way, which goes off into infinity because it doesn't hit anything. That'd be bad. So I'm going to flip the material side the other direction. And then when I hit enter, what's going to happen is it's just going to create the rib for me. So now if I go there we go. We've got a solid rib. It's all in place. Now I do want one of these on the other side, but instead of using the rib command, what I want to do is, just like we did with the sketches, I'm just going to mirror it and just have the thing go over. Mirroring on features is great, especially in complex parts. So you basically build half the item and then just mirror the entire other half. And that can be really useful for when you have parts with a lot of fillets. In fact, we could have built this part and just mirrored the whole thing. But let's show you how that works. So if you go up here, you've got a mirror command. It already selected rib because we were still selected there, but if you wanted to do that, you just go in here. You can select any feature in here, and it will mirror it. We've got to give it a mirror plane, so we're going to use that right plane. It's always really handy to drop this down to be able to grab things. So mirror plane mirrors the right plane. You can see there's our preview. That looks good. Execute that, and now we have all of our ribs on here. So the last thing for us to do is we need to drop a couple holes. And so the first hole we need is there's a through hole here for whatever device is going through there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do an extrude cut. Now this hole wizard we'll play with a little bit later. Hole wizard's great because there's standard clearances for screws, the countersinks, counter bores and things like that we can use. Right now we're still just going to sketch them out and do them. So I want to do an extruded cut, and I'm going to want to do it on this plane here because we're going to bash a through hole right through this guy. So once again, I'm going to highlight that circle until the center appears. I'm going to grab the center. I'm going to drop it down, and then we'll put our dimension on it. Okay, I'm sorry that sometimes this is a little bit slow, but once again, I'm running this off a laptop, which is not as powerful as the desktops that we have. So 1/2 inch, we're done. Exit the sketch, and we're just going to blow that right through. So we're going to go through all. And then go done. So now we have our hole there. So the last thing we have is we've got a mounting pattern of holes in the back corner here. So I'm just going to draw one of them, and then we'll linear pattern the feature. So once again, extrude cut. I want to do it on this plane here. And so I'm just going to draw some random circle. Doesn't matter. I believe that circle is also going to be a 3/8 of an inch, 0.375. And then we want to throw a dimension in from each edge. And we're going to have it 1/2 inch from each edge. Once we get that last dimension in, everything will be fully defined and life will be good. Being fully defined is pretty important, especially as I'm grading things. It's one of the things I'll be looking for. And then we'll exit the sketch. And it's a cut, so we're going to go through all. And there we go. So now we have our cut through. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to do a linear pattern. So linear pattern different than a circular pattern because now we're dealing with linear, so straight out dimensions. So the first thing I want to do is direction 1. So I want to go this way. And it gives me a little arrow so I know whether or not it's going in the right direction. I can click here and tell it, nope, go the other way. And so what we're going to do is, since I want it 1/2 inch from each side, I'm just going to say, okay, I want you to take this 5 inches over. 5 inches, and it gives us the preview. But I want to add a second direction because I also want to put it down here. And it's going in the right direction. And so now it's a linear pattern, so it's going to drag both of them down because it knows, okay, I go 2 this way and I go 2 this way. So we're going to put in, we got 2 of them, but we want to take these guys 3 inches down. And there we go. Preview shows us all the holes. We hit enter. And now we have our holes in there. And so now we have our bracket all put together. We use some new techniques. And that's it.